I have been waiting for a moment where all of this story, all of this build-up, gives me a moment that really makes me feel. You know what I mean? We've had great moments, like Alicent's entry to the wedding or Emma's death. We've had well-crafted moments or cool moments, like Daemon down in the Stepstones. But House of the Dragon Episode 8 was the first time that I was like, wow, I really care about these characters. I'm really feeling things. Seeing Viserys, as haggard as he was, limping towards the throne, carrying all that pain and sadness and hope, struggling to get up the stairs, and then Daemon of all people, helping him up, was so good. After years of antagonizing him, wanting the throne for himself in a way, Daemon was the one who helped his brother up onto the throne at last. He is the one who places the crown upon his head. He's the one who is there at the end of it all when Viserys doesn't want help from anyone else. Simply put, I loved that. Or the scenes where Alicent and Rhaenyra are with Viserys on his deathbed, or the scenes where they nearly make up. It just gave me this moment where I was like, yeah, no, I'm totally invested in this story now. I am here for it. And absolutely at the right time, because the dance is about to begin. This episode was broadly divided into two parts. We had Succession and then the Targaryen Thanksgiving dinner. First, Succession. No, not that. Good show, though. So Corlys Velaryon is wounded and dying, and they're trying to figure out who should inherit the Driftwood throne after him. Now, officially, the Targaryen and Velaryon family tree looks like this. It should pass through Laenor to Lucerys, because Jacaerys will sit the Iron Throne. But, hey, maybe there's a little Harwin Strong squeeze somewhere in there. So Vaemond might have a better claim, and he wants Driftmark. Now, what we see in the show is kind of a simplified version of what happens in the books. In truth, there's like a ton of Velaryon claimants who all come to the Iron Throne to stake their claim, and then Viserys has all of their tongues out. But it's simplified because, the show just doesn't really have the bandwidth to introduce a whole bunch of other Velaryon characters. And it's not a change that really matters, except for one thing. This event here is sort of what causes a rift in the Velaryon house. And it's part of the reason that a bunch of Velaryons actually fight on opposite sides during the Dance of Dragons. Not all of them are Team Black, but because Vaemond is seemingly the only claimant here, I'm not sure if they're gonna go into that. This is also where we get that amazing scene where Viserys arrives one last time to help his daughter in what is the slowest, most haggard charge of the Rohirrim you have ever seen. He calls Vaemond a second son of Driftmark, and this is something that has come up in the series over and over, the idea that second sons cause conflict. There's Otto and Daemon and Vaemond and soon-to-be Aemond. These people who are born into so much but end up walking away with little but ambition. So much of House of the Dragon is about how the institutions of power in Westeros, how they are set up structurally, actually causes conflict within itself, and yet people continue to try to defend it, I found it really interesting that Rhaenys was going to press her own claim to the Driftwood throne. This is not a detail that appears in the book, but it is also not the sort of detail that would appear in this book. Remember, this is an historical account written by maesters, and those are private conversations that they would not have heard, right? I also love by how declaring for Lucerys in the court, she manipulates Rhaenyra into keeping her promise that their kids are gonna be married. Very nice little move. Of course, this episode again shows that Rhaenyra is not particularly politically savvy, taking right after her father. She's not great at holding her own in court and winning alliances. This whole series could be renamed How to Lose Friends and Alienate People 2, starring Rhaenyra Targaryen, coming soon to theaters near you. There was one really interesting evolution in her character though, something that does not appear in the books, where she goes to Viserys and says, I thought I wanted this, I thought I wanted the throne, I thought I wanted power, but I'm so tired. I'm so sick of just fighting for this. I don't want to be part of this system where these tensions exist in the first place, I really like that change, that addition more so. In the books, she's portrayed as quite power hungry in a way, and I think this gives her a bit of nuance that's quite cool. Of course, built into this is the whole prophecy prince that was promised stuff. I'm still not really keen on that. I don't really like the idea that, that's why she has to sit the throne, or a Targaryen has to sit the throne. But at least it doesn't really play a huge part in the plot. Not until this episode where Alicent, mistakes them talking about it for Viserys saying that he wants Aegon to be heir. This miscommunication, I think, was a really good decision, because giving Alicent a better reason to try and put her son on the throne allows us to keep a lot more sympathy for her. Especially when you put it in combination with her tension with her son. She calls him no son of mine in this episode. And then there's the scene with Diana, the servant girl, and I was afraid that she was gonna poison this girl to protect Aegon. I'm glad they didn't go down that route, All of these together make her a more interesting character than she is in Fire and Blood. I will admit that I kinda wish we got a bit more build up to, her kind of hating her son, but it does give us an interesting dynamic to explore in the future. But the heart of this episode is, of course, the Targaryen Thanksgiving dinner, where quite appropriately the whole family is forced into close proximity, where you can be made to listen to your uncle's cruel jokes. Look, I'm from New Zealand. I don't actually know how Thanksgiving works. This is just what the memes tell me, okay? Is that actually how Thanksgiving is for you? Tell me if you are from America or the Northern United States, otherwise known as Canada. One of the things I love about House of the Dragon is how layered every single scene is, right? How you can read this scene in so many different ways. You can read it as a reconciliation between Alicent and Rhaenyra, as Viserys' last-ditch effort to keep his family together, as the kids learning to hate each other even more, as a show of parallels between Aemond and Daemon. There are so many little things going on in every single scene. The scene is, though, virtually straight from the book, though the interpretation of that scene is a little bit different. Like, when I was reading this, I 100% took Alicent and Rhaenyra saying nice things about each other as them just faking it for Viserys, because characters do that in the book just to make him happy. But the show has done such a good job at helping us sympathize with Alicent and Rhaenyra and the breakdown of their relationship that having Rhaenyra say, you have been so unfathomably loyal to Viserys in a way that nobody else in the world has been, and then Alicent saying to Rhaenyra, you will make a good queen, like that really means something. I much prefer the version we get in the show. And, part of this is just an old writing tip. If you want a sad story beat to land better, then you juxtapose it with a glimmer of hope that something could have been different. And so the scene where Alicent and Rhaenyra come to each other and they genuinely seem like they want to reconcile, right? It tells you so much. This scene really worked for me. And, of course, a big part of this is the absolute Chad, Paddy Considine, give that man an Emmy or something, who has just 100% sold it as Viserys. If you've ever watched a relative decline like this, it is horrifying. My granddad had an aggressive form of Parkinson's, and yeah, it's freaking harrowing to watch, Again, Viserys, at this feast, he says, let us hold no more ill will to each other, if not for the family, then at least for this old man who loves you. You can see how much he wants to mend this rift in his family, but he's not politically savvy. He's just not cut out for the environment in which these problems have manifested. He's very emotionally driven, and you can feel in this moment that he senses, he's running out of chances to mend the problems here. There's a horror to that, a feeling of him going, oh, I've failed, because there's all these family issues lovingly embodied in Aemond One-Eye. Aemond One-Eye rose to toast his Velaryon nephew, speaking in mock admiration of their brown hair, brown eyes, and strength. I have never known anyone so strong as my sweet nephews, he ended. So let us drain our cups to these 3 strong boys. Aegon the Elder took offense when Jacaerys asked his wife, Helena, for a dance. Angry words were exchanged and the 2 princes might have come to blows if not for the intervention of the Kingsguard. Again, the scene straight from the books. I love the little detail of Jacaerys and Helena dancing and then them being like, well, you're not allowed to do that, my wife. I love that they have drawn this parallel between Daemon and Aemond, because I did not notice that when I was reading the books. They even look similar. Aemond clearly admires Daemon as this swashbuckling, bold, give-no-shits man that he kinda wants to be himself. And this whole raising the cups provocation is a very Daemon thing to do, isn't it? Let's be honest. Aemond also smiles when Daemon just straight up kills Vaemond in the court. And Daemon was clearly keeping an eye on Aemond throughout the dinner. all of this, given how much they're gonna have to do with each other in the future in the story, I think this was a great narrative setup. It's also nice to have some characters that we genuinely like and want to root for in the story now. You know, Jacaerys is really likable when he insists on following in the steps of his ancestors and he defends Baelor. You know, Helena, she's very charming, and she has this line in the episode. She says, you know, beware the beast beneath the boards. And that's referencing all these family issues which are simmering and boiling underneath, and everyone's just kind of like, yeah, we're fine, we love each other, you know, I'll kill you. Aemond is kind of likable in the same way that Daemon is pretty likable, you know, a testing badass. And I know I've said before that I kind of soured on Alicent and Rhaenyra, but no, I'm totally back on the Alicent Rhaenyra hype train, you know? And I like watching them, whatever scenes that they're in, they're just interesting characters to watch. Last thing, I want to talk about the time jump. 6 years this time. I am glad that this is the final time jump. Even I, who knows the lore and the timeline and the family tree, have been feeling the strain of all these time jumps a little bit. I'd love to hear your thoughts on them down below, and if you found them confusing at all. One of the things that I think they've done really well with the time jumps, though, is that I've never felt like I've missed out on story. And even though they're introducing, you know, new actors, new characters quite a bit, they've always nicely slotted into the plots and stories that we've been following the whole time. You know, Alicent and Rhaenyra's breakdown, Viserys' decline, the War in the Stepstones, Daemon antagonizing people, House Velaryon politics, that sort of thing. But no more time jumps, because we are here now. All the pieces have been moved into position. Can't you hear the music? The dance is about to begin.